Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kemi, and I'm actually here to talk about. It's not a documentary, but it's one of those Lifetime movies that is about a true story. So it's called Gaslit by My Husband, the Morgan Metzer story. So, um, this movie was originally done on Lifetime in 2024, but it was added to Netflix in March of 2026, which is when I watched it, and this was a doozer. So this story was crazy, and the fact that it's like a true story is like wow. Um, so I love me a documentary. I love me a good true story type situation. So I'm gonna try to start because I've watched a few that I really want to talk about. So I'm gonna bring those to you. Some are old, some are new. We gonna talk about them. So this story. So basically, it starts off with her um, having a baby, and um, I'm not sure if this part was true or not, but because when I did look into the story, they didn't mention anything about a baby, about a first child, but this is this is how it starts. So she has a child, and something was wrong with the baby. They had to take the baby in to do surgery, but the baby didn't make it. So um, they are, and their names are, it's Morgan and Rodney Metzer. So, so she has the baby. She loses the baby. Um, I'm sorry, the baby passes when after this during the surgery, so he didn't make it through the surgery. So, she is, guilt ridden about it. She low key can't move on, but she can. She's taking anxiety medicine, and she's hiding it from him. I think initially she's hiding it from him, but he finds out because he finds the medicine bottles. So they decide to try for kids again, and so they end up having they do have kids again. They have a set of twins, boy and a girl, and life is great. um yeah, life is great or whatever. So he sorry, after she lost the first child, he gets fired, and he tells her that he got fired because he was spending so much time at the hospital after the baby was born. But he's just like, I'm gonna get another job, X, Y, and Z, boom, boom. So he gets another job. Everything is good. They have the twins. She They celebrate the first child's birthday every year on his birthday. Again, she is still guilt ridden. She's going to therapy. Not therapy. Yeah, she's is it therapy? Or she's going to group meetings about loss or whatever. So she goes to those meetings. She It's every Tuesday or whatever. So she goes to a meeting, and she meets a guy in the meeting or whatever. When she gets home that night, her husband is there, and he's pissed because he was just like, you were supposed to pick up the kids today, and I asked you. And she was just like, I wouldn't have agreed to that because I always go to this meeting on Tuesday. So I don't I don't remember agreeing to that. He gaslights her into thinking that she messed up, she forgot or whatever. So she apologizes. She gets back to doing whatever. He complains that he had to leave work 30 minutes early, blah 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 blah, all this other stuff. A couple days later, he tells her that he gets fired because he had to leave work 30 minutes early to pick up his kid, and she feels bad about it or whatever. Um, he says they'll make it work. He has a trust fund, so they're going to be living off of their trust fund or whatever. So they're living off of the trust fund. He's saying he's gonna go get another job. He's going to all these different interviews. He isn't getting a job. things are starting to become past due because he's um he's borrowing against the trust fund, and like he's the money is running low. So she's just like, I'll go out and get a job. Prior to that, they're celebrating. It was I think this was after he was supposed to go pick up the kid. He tells her that she was supposed to go pick up the kids. That weekend is the son that passed his birthday. They throw a party, or he throws a party. He invites all the family and everything, and she's just like, this isn't what we normally do, whatever. He is giving her drinks, she's taking her pills. She comes out with the cake. They get into an argument. She drops the cake. She goes back inside. His mom comes in, gives her a water bottle, and was just like, maybe you need to start drinking water. So he comes in, they start arguing, and he calls her crazy. And she says, don't call me crazy. He grabs her by the hand, and then she swings her hand and she hits him with the water bottle, and his nose starts to bleed. She had one of her friends that she's known since whenever was there. They, talked to each other, got reacquainted or whatever. But she had, when he came in and they were arguing, she had walked away or whatever. So he goes out, he tells her to go upstairs and, sleep it off. He goes outside and he's telling everybody, she hit me with the bottle, X, Y, and Z, and all this other stuff. And she's feeling bad about it or whatever. This is when they start losing the money. So she decides that she's gonna, open up her interior design business because she likes to do that. So she goes out, she gets a client, and she comes home to tell him, I got my first client. He's excited for her. He tells her, oh, I have to go to Dallas for a job interview on Valentine's Day. Sorry about it. She's just like, okay, that's fine. He starts to kiss her. She's just like, no, I gotta go make dinner, blah, 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 blah. He was just like, no, 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 it's gonna be okay. So he just like, they have sex or whatever. So she comes inside to make dinner, and he comes in and he's just like, oh, we're gonna order pizza because mom is too much of a horn dog to cook for us. And she's just like, what? Like, that's not what happened. And her kids are just like, what's a horn dog? And he's just like, I'll tell you when you're 18 or whatever. So that night they go up, they're upstairs or whatever. They put the kids to bed, and she's telling him she didn't like that, what he did. And she doesn't like him talking like that in front of the kids. And he's just like, oh, it is what it is. So then he starts pushing up on her, and she's just like, no, I don't want to, I don't want to have sex. And he's just like, come on, you like this. And he forces himself on her. So he R's his wife in this moment. So she's feeling away, but she's not saying anything. They everything again, she's, doing her business, everything is going great. He's not doing so well, so she's the one who's making all the money at this point. He They have an argument about something. I can't even remember what the argument was about, but they go upstairs, and in that moment they're arguing, and she's like, man, whatever. He grabs her and knocks her against the wall, knocks her against the other wall, and then they fall down the stairs because that's what we see. So the kids come running, and she wakes up, and she's just like, because she went blank. So she wakes up and she's just like, are you okay? The kids come running. He tells them that mommy pushed him down the stairs. And so they're looking at her like, mommy, are you okay? And it's just like, wait a minute now. I know what I saw, and that ain't what I saw, but it looked like I both fell down the stairs. But I don't know. So the next day, her parents come to the house, and they're just like, we didn't raise you like this, and why would you push him down the stairs, da 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 da, this and that. And she's just like, that's not what happened. Like, what are you talking about? I didn't push him. And then her dad shows her the camera footage, and all you see is him falling down the stairs. So now she's just like, wait, did I push him down the stairs? Like, okay, maybe I did push him down the stairs. So she's, something ain't right. She feels like something's not right or whatever. So life moves on. Again, he's still being pissy about the fact that he's not making money and she is. He's downing her. He's just like, belittling her and all this other stuff. Um, they Something happens. Oh yeah, she met that friend at the group. It was a guy, and he gets a note in the mail, and it's like saying, "Stay away from this person." Stay away from her was what the letter was saying, because he had found her phone and he's seen a text message from the guy coming into her, that he was texting her basically saying, it was nice to meet you, and thanks for the donuts or whatever, because she had gave him donuts. He makes it seem like she's cheating on him, and she's just like, what are you talking about? I'm not cheating on you. He shows her the letter, a threatening letter that he got in the mail. She's just like, what? She don't believe it. Then like some time passes. He shows her an email of the guy threatening him or whatever, and she's just like, I'm not having an affair. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So she goes to the guy at their next group meeting, and she's like, could you please leave my husband alone? Stop sending him emails, stop sending threatening letters. And he's just like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's just like, I know what you're doing. Stop it. And he's just like, whatever you and your husband got going on, y'all need to keep that and leave me out of it. So he leaves, and he's just like, I'm done with you or whatever. So she's thinking in her head, and she's just like, what's going on? Like, I don't know what's going on. What's going on? So she's in another one of her group meetings, and the in the facilitator, yeah, the facilitator is talking about narcissists and how you just need to let them think they're in control and that they're getting their way, and that's the only way that you can beat a narcissist basically or whatever. So she's thinking about this. She's running late for a meeting for a client with her new partner, which was with her partner, which was one of her old classmate that she had seen at her, at the birthday party for her son, where she had hit her husband. So as they're in the country club or wherever they're at, discussing the new client that they got, she sees a photo of her husband, and it shows that he's the golf champion. He won the golf championship or whatever for February 14th. And her friend was just like, wasn't he supposed to be in Dallas that day? And she was just like, yeah, or maybe I got my wires crossed. And she's just like going crazy, and she's telling her friend, like, I don't know what's going on, like I feel like I'm losing my mind, I'm hitting him and I'm doing this. And she mentions how she hit him on on her son's birthday or whatever, when she had hit him with the water bottle. So her friend was just like, mm-mm, no, that is not what happened. So she shows her a video, because her friend was taking a video of the place state, the what is it called? The plate. Why can't I talk? The 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 plate setting in their house the day of the party, because she had complimented her about how she designed the house. So she was like taking videos of it, and she hears when they start to argue, and she lifts up her phone and she's recording them. And in the video, you see that he smacked her, and she starts to recall what actually happened. So when he had called her crazy, she said, "Don't call me crazy." He ran up on her, grabbed her by the arm, and then smacked her. And trigger warning, sorry. So he smacks her across her face, and then she remembers him put like throwing her up against the wall, and then throwing her down the stairs. And then we see the footage. Then we see him throw himself down the stairs, and then him telling the kids that she threw her down the stairs. So this man legit edited the video to show himself falling down the stairs, to show to her family. So she is she's like, at this point, she's fed up. She's just like, yeah, no, I'm like, something's not right. This isn't right. Um, so, and I missed some things, so I apologize. One of the things was he had went and got her a pew pew to be safe when he was just like, when I go out of town or whatever. So she takes the pew pew or whatever. She buys when she gets like she's never bought anything luxurious for herself, and her friend was just like, what would you buy? And she was just like, oh, I would buy a purse. So when she, but she was just like, I've never done that before because Rodney always took care of the money because he was the one making it or whatever. So once she gets some money from her business, she goes and buys herself a luxury bag, and he gets upset about it. So he pisses all over her purse. So the day she comes back from after she recalls everything, she comes back and she sees her purse on the floor and she smells it, and she smells the piss or whatever. So she goes to confront her husband, and her in-laws are there. Sorry. His people are there, and I apologize. His people are there. She tells them they need to leave. She confronts him about the piss on the purse and everything that he did. She throws a purse at him. He like he tries to turn it back on her, and she's just like, no, da 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 da. She was just like, I'm leaving, and he was just like, you're not gonna leave me. And he starts to get aggressive with her, and the kids come running in, and they're just like on their mom's side or whatever, because initially he was just like, if you ever leave me, you'll never get the kids because I'll tell them all the things that you did. And I was just like, man, F them kids, because they was on his side, and it was just like, no ma'am. But sorry about that. So, like I said, I was initially like, bump them kids because they believe in their daddy. Let him take them at this point because no ma'am. But again, this was all in her head. She was thinking that her kids were taking up for him because again he was gaslighting her, and they were on her side, so she goes to leave, and she leaves him. They get a divorce. It's Christmas, or it's Christmas time or whatever. um it's his weekend to have the kids, but her sister wanted the kids or whatever. So he said, we can switch weekends, but I would love to. Can I drive them up there or whatever? Can I drive y'all up there or whatever? So she was just like, okay, because she was just like, since we are switching weekends, that's the least I could do. So he drives them up to go see her parents. I mean, her sister. They drop the kids off, and then they drive back. And this was New Year's or whatever, or around again, this is all around Christmas. So when they get back, he tells her that he has the big C and it's stage 3 and all this other stuff, and she's feeling bad for him. So she invites him into her house, and she, comforts him. She lets him spend the night. He spends the night, and then he leaves or whatever. He put some stuff in the house so that he could get back in the house whenever he wants to, while she went upstairs to sleep and he was downstairs. So he comes back New Year's Eve, and he's dressed as a sorry, he got a mask on his face or whatever. So he comes, she sleep on the couch, she wakes up and she goes upstairs or whatever. He comes in, and he's real quiet. She does have a loose floorboard, but he steps around it. So he takes a picture of her while he takes pictures of her while she sleep, and then he takes the pew pew that was in her dresser. And as he's leaving, the floorboard squeaks, and she wakes up, and she sees the masked man in her house, and he comes in, and he's punching her. He hits her in the face with the gun, with the pew pew, and he ties her up, and then he R's her, and then he chokes her. And as he's choking her, she's looking in his eyes and she realizes who he is. And he's just like, "Where's your husband? Where's your husband?" And she's just like, "Oh, he's not here. Please don't hurt my husband. I love him so much." And da 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 and all this other stuff. She's just like, giving him control. So he puts a pillowcase over her head and he drags her down the stairs and puts her on the porch. And he was just like, "Don't take this off until you hear three horn honks." So he he takes the he he goes and he honks his horn and he pretends to leave, and then he comes back as himself, and he's just like, "Oh my god, Morgan, what happened, what happened?" He unties her, he takes off the pillowcase, and he's just like, "Oh my god, what happened, what happened?" And she was just like, "I was just attacked. I need to call my dad." So she calls her dad or whatever, and he was just like, "Maybe we need to call the police." So they call the police. He goes to the door and he's not letting the police in, and he's just like, "Oh, it's nothing, and we thought it was something, but it's not. Someone broke in, but not really." And she like gets up and knocks over the those what is them things? Them things that you use for the fireplace, like to shovel out the ashes and to pick, I don't know what they're called, but those things. She knocks that down. The police hear her and they come in the house and they see like her bad, her face is bruised up at this point. So they see her and they want to get more information from her. They call the paramedics or whatever. They separate them. One of the cops tells him to show him around or whatever. So Rodney goes with one of the cops, and then the other cop asks her, "Do you know who did this?" And she's like saying with her eyes, "Him." And so he was just like, he's just like, "If you're afraid, blink once, blink twice, whatever." And she just basically lets him know it was him. So he was just like, "Okay, well, we got it." So he goes to them, and the other cop, the one that was talking to Morgan, he goes to Rodney and he's just like, "Oh, do you know of anyone who might want to do this?" And he was just like, "Yeah, there was this one guy who was stalking her and da da da, all this other stuff." So he was just like, he shows them the email or whatever. So the cop was just like, can I keep this so that I can, send this to myself or send this to the station so that we can try to trace it back to where it came from. And he was just like, "Yeah." And then he was just like, he tells the other officer, "Can you take him to go see what's missing or whatever?" So Rodney leaves his phone with the guy. So the guy goes through the phone and he sees the pictures that he had took of Morgan while she was asleep. And then he also goes to Rodney's car, and he sees, I don't know what he sees there, but I think he sees the pew pew. I'm not for sure, but I think he sees the pew pew that belongs to Morgan or whatever. So he comes back in and he's like, trying to get some information or whatever. And then he arrests him, like, "You're under arrest for attacking your wife or whatever." So it's we then see that it's what's it called? He's getting sentenced. So Rodney pleads guilty to attacking his wife and R-ing her or whatever. And so, and that's how it ends. She gets her life back or whatever. But yeah, this was a crazy story because it was just like that man really gaslit her. And I was like, God, like, I low key was just like, "Wait, is this really happening? Or am I tripping?" Because, the way they did it, it was just like, it looked like she was doing these things when in actuality she wasn't. But it was crazy. And I was just like, I cannot believe this is like real life. Like, this is a real life story. Like, there are really people out here in the world that are doing stuff like that. Like, what? But yeah, it was a good watch. Again, it originally aired on Lifetime in 2024, but it's now streaming on Netflix. It's called Gaslit by my husband, the Morgan Metzer story. You guys give it a watch. I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, so Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, and turning on your post notifications so you'll know whenever I post. Get down in the comments. Tell me what you thought of this. If you've watched it, what were your thoughts on this story? Because this was a wild one. And I will be back with some more documentaries. See you guys in the next one.